All right, thanks for joining everyone. Just to reintroduce myself real quick, my name's Justin Ford. I'm one of the founders and the CEO of Javelin Sports. Javelin Sports was started in 2017 with the idea of making it easier to play sports. We've been bootstrapping ever since then, and I'm excited to tell you about the progress we've made. So there were two problems that we initially wanted to tackle. First is that over 75% of people claim they want to play more sports. On the bottom left of this slide here, you'll see there's a few ways I've identified how people are currently trying to play. So here's a pickup soccer group in London, Ontario with 1,400 members. And here's a Toronto soccer meetup group with 15,000 members. So people are definitely willing to go out and look for new ways to play sports. I mean, I can even tell you that we have some soccer groups within Javelin with almost 500 players in them. At the same time, there's this other big problem, and it's what experts are calling the social isolation crisis. So it's the fact that over 60% of people claim they feel lonely. Yet it's very difficult to put yourself out there in a new group of people and meet individuals in your area. So the solution is the Javelin mobile app. We built a marketplace that connects sports players with organizations. We currently have over 25,000 accounts. It's available on Android and iOS, by the way. So here's a quick dive into the product. So as it's a marketplace, there's two main customers we service. First would be sports players. So from a sports player's perspective, we help match sports players with other players around them. We take a communication first approach. So we believe that if we're facilitating really good communication between sports players, people will be having more games on Javelin, and then they'll attract more friends. From the sports organization perspective, we also provide a full front to back end club and league management solution. So not only can they then be the ones communicating with their players, but also they can attract new players to join their organization. This comes to my why now slide. So we're viewing this as a really good opportunity for cementing new habits for how people play sports. Essentially, the pandemic shut down the whole industry. And as things open up again, we've been launching in new cities to try to get people back and get them playing. So here's a quick look at our results on these launches so far. So we launched our first one on June 6th in Toronto, Canada. We went from 3,500 to over 10,000 monthly active users. We made, and this is about a month and a half in that I grabbed all these numbers. So we made about $5,000 in revenue just over during that time. We went from 400 to over 2,000 weekly messages sent. And we had a 61% retention rate over the 5 weeks from the start of the campaign to, once again, when I grabbed these numbers. Just to give you some context, if you know anything about mobile apps or mobile app investing, a really good 1 month retention for a mobile app is 9%. So we're over 6 times that. Here's a quick dive into the market. So the sports league management software industry is about 800 million, and it's growing at a 17% CAGR. So it's expected to hit 2 billion by 2027. And then there's also a sports social media play that we have because about 27% of people are currently playing sports. More immediately, we're launching, once again, in Canada and the United States. So our serviceable attainable market is about 60 million in the short term. Here's a quick look at our business model. So this says subscription revenue. It's essentially a seasonal fee where we charge $20 per team we set up for a sports organization. The average sports organization brings us 11 teams. That's $220. More long-term, the biggest driver behind our market size is this commission revenue piece. So a lot of money moves around in the sports industry, and we're currently working on setting up in-app payment processing to get a piece of that. Here's a quick go-to-market slide. So step one is a marketplace. We partner with sports organizations. We have over 150 partners all across North America. Step two, we're trying to scale up our user base. Right now, once again, we're just running some return to sports campaigns in Toronto, Ontario to test out what works, what doesn't. And then we have that grow virally piece. So since sports are so social, we've shown that we can actually attract a lot of players by launching these campaigns. And once again, once we iron out a few more things in Toronto, we'll be launching this all across North America. Here's a quick timeline. So we launched our Return to Sports campaign up here on June 6th. We released a referral feature on August 15th. And just recently, we released an introduction incentive. So we're giving out a PlayStation 5 to anyone who invites a friend to their team on Javelin. And anyone can participate. So if you're listening and want that PlayStation 5, feel free to check us out in the App Store. Here's a quick look at our competitors. So our most direct competitor would be TeamSnap. If you know anything about youth sports, you've likely heard of them. But we have another big competitor called Sports Engine, where TeamSnap is a mobile app. They kind of do our private league management similar to us, and Sports Engine is a web app primarily. Here's a quick look at the team. So I had the good fortune of being backed by a really strong group of individuals. So for myself, my background is as a ski instructor and also a buy-side analyst. My co-founder Coleman has previously founded the Flaming Kitchen restaurant chain, which currently has 3 locations in Toronto. And our CTO, Jackie Chen, has lead development experience at a previous startup. From our advisors' perspective, from the advisors' situation, we have Darren Raby. He's a serial entrepreneur, angel investor, and sales consultant. And Donovan Bailey just joined. He won the gold medal in the 100-meter sprint in the 1996 Olympics, and he's currently doing a lot of introductions for us, which is nice.
Just so you know, you're over a minute over your time already. I just want to warn you.
And I am raising $1 million. Then I'll stop. Sorry for going so far over. I'll open the floor to questions. Oh, and 10% of our raise is currently closed.
So judges, go ahead and turn your video off, on, and your mic's on, and jump straight in.
All right. Justin, go ahead, Blair. All you.
How do you think about acquiring customers quickly? Are there any sort of channel partners? And
that's a good question. So initially we were partnering with sports organizations, and that would be actually how we'd get their players. We sign up an organization. The average organization would bring us 135 players. More long-term, we're actually thinking that there's a really good opportunity in this incentive thing that we've been experimenting with. So it's a great way for us to set up private teams within Javelin, and we find those private teams are very sticky. So once people use our app to message their friends to organize sports events once a week, we tend to have them for keeps.
Justin, walk me through this a little bit. Are these are brand new soccer clubs, or are you working with someone who's already got a soccer club? Like, these are
existing soccer clubs that we partner with. And then we also provide a player matching service too. So from the soccer club's perspective, we'll help you communicate with your players and attract new players. From the player's perspective, we'll help you organize events in your area, meet with other players, and join local sports organizations.
So you don't have league apps on your competitive landscape, and they're literally the biggest one doing this.
Yeah, league apps is big. Big part of the reason why they're so big is because they've been around for the longest.
Yeah, but it's terrible. I'm a big volleyball player. It's like the worst app out there.
That's
everyone's using
why
it. And you don't have it up there, though.
They've been around the longest, and I know they're the biggest, but TeamSnap and Sports Engine are the ones that are getting the most momentum right now.
Okay.
Justin, would you, thanks for your time and appreciate the pitch. I'm wondering if you could just kind of walk me through the integration ecosystem to date for Javelin, especially with respect to, like you mentioned, kind of like suggesting teams. I'm wondering, is there like geolocation data that you're ingesting from a historical perspective? I'm also wondering about like if there's any sort of payment facilitation happening on the Javelin platform around team fees and just, integration ecosystem writ large with those areas in particular.
It's a good question. So we are fully partnered with a sports web management platform called Zaraye that represents about 30,000 players. We're currently trying to, get all of their players on board of Javelin. So that's our one big integration. We also are working on a Stripe API to handle payment processing for people purchasing teams within Javelin. Right now we have to do that all off of our app. And then the actual long-term stuff that we're looking into is we want to be able to partner with all of the different platforms like Sports Engine or like any other kind of web management platform, and then also facilitate payments peer-to-peer, so that's player-to-player, player-to-sport, and player-to-sports organization as well.
Do you have a strategy of going freemium? I mean, the processing fee is where this industry is at right now.
Yeah, and we're only charging right now because investors want to see revenue, so it's nice for us to say, hey, we have it. Long-term payment processing is by far the biggest driver, so there's a good chance we could go free. And we just released this new feature where you get a free team if you invite a friend, but it's a very watered-down team, so they don't get all the regular league management stuff. It's good if you're want to organize a game once a week among buddies. So I think we will go that route, but it does depend on where the industry takes us.
Justin, I know we touched a little bit to that topic earlier, I wanted to understand a bit better what's the tech workflow, what's happening on the back of the app when you have a user that's logging in and that's making requests on your app, that's looking for.
So do you mean, so we use Google Firebase as our backend, or we're built in React Native? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, what would be the tech workflow in general? Like, what is the app doing? What type of data is it looking at? I know we've touched a little bit to that topic earlier, but I wanted to understand a little bit, what is the workflow from the moment that you open the app? Then,
so from the user's perspective.
Yes.
So it depends if they were invited to Javelin or not. If they're invited, it's asked for their invite code. If they add it, they'll be added to their team, and then they can start messaging their players and see their schedule. If they haven't been added, they'll be sent a little some onboarding instructions, like here's how you find leagues, here's how you find pickup groups. And alternatively, invite a friend, you get a free team. They also get a message from us personally. So I've spoken with over 1,000 users just through replying to that internal message that they get where they have some questions. They also have a few different tabs to go into. So things like searching for leagues and searching for pickup games. And if they are, let's say, looking for a pickup game, they will be asked for their location so that we can show them games in their area. Cool. Any other questions?
Just curious about differentiation. If you were going ahead with the team snap, competing for a contract, however you want to frame it, how would you, make the Javelin pitch here?
That's a good question. And I'll be honest, it's hard to compete head to head with Team Snap. They have a really established brand, and that's actually why we're building or going to the end player first. So we found that by selling the app to players as a way for them to join leagues in their area and join pickup groups, they will then attract sports organizations who want to get listed within that player base. So we found for every 423 players we sign up right now, or this was actually in 2020, we'll get one new sports organization referred to us. So a lot of what we're doing right now is trying to improve that referral number to get it more in line with that 135 players per organization. And once we can hit that, then viral growth is on the horizon.
Any last piece of advice for Justin?
I would just say this from your pitch deck point of view. You mentioned your team, but how does being a ski instructor really help in this environment? Same thing with the restaurant owner. How does that help with this type of technology? Just making sure those are all aligned in bringing together a marketplace is going to be something really important. And I also think taking some time, I know it's only a 4-minute pitch, but show us like what Marina mentioned, that workflow of the user, like this really quickly, like show us the platform itself, and I would add team apps or league apps to your thing. This.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add very quickly to that. I think in terms of the tech, most of the investors that you will be talking to, they will be either looking at the fact that you can build a community, or they will be tech investors. And so we need to understand, what data points you're taking into account. What type of data you work with. So don't hesitate to go deep into that topic. It's very important for us to understand, how are you going to manage that whole set of data that then brings a very appealing product to the user.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and a round of applause in the chat for Justin jumping in here. Justin, thank you for setting up on stage in front of a pretend virtual audience who are all still here watching. Cheers.
Thanks. I appreciate you guys taking the time.
Thanks, Justin.
Cheers, Justin. I'm going to bring Doug on stage from Vendita. Great to have you, Doug. I'm so glad that we got your tech issues figured out. And we have Doug.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Were you stuck on the main stage too?
Yep.
That seems to be a symptom tonight. I'm glad that you made it over. Your screen is shared, and then all you have to do is just pull up the deck. Perfect. And then you have to make it full screen.
All right.
Do play from start.
There we go. I'm so used to Zoom. This is like a whole new language for me. I'm sorry, I feel like I should build a Zoom like inside my glasses. So.
This is Zoom on steroids. They only got a few $1 billion, so that's why it's so easy to use.
Great, thank you.
But
Thank
before you present, I want to make sure the judges to just go ahead and remember to turn your video off just during the presentation. It changes what the recording looks like. That's why I asked for it. So Doug, any questions for me? Or are you ready to roll?
No, we can go.
Okay, you got 4 minutes starting right now.
Okay, so Vendita has been around since 2008. We are data people, and we have worked with companies like IBM and built up an organization up to about $30 million in sales. And through that, we recognize the fundamental challenge is that when you're dealing with data, there is, you know, a significant challenge with how do you do that today. And the problem keeps getting bigger and bigger. So we ended up building a SaaS offering called Master Automation Solution, or called Moz. And what it really does is it helps you with your business continuity, operations, and data management. The problem that we're going after, and everybody knows, is data is growing extremely rapidly, and there's the resources that manage that data are very scarce. The other challenge that we're running into, databases have been around for 30 some years, and the tools that they use to manage databases are quite old. They're over 20 years old in the most part. This is the kind of data growth that we're seeing overall. You know, 90% of the world's data has been created in the last 2 years alone. And the problem that that's creating for businesses is trying to get meaning out of that data. We did some studies, talked to different business organizations, and they said, look, I'm having problems with lost revenue, just inefficiencies, and even losing customers. And so from the business side, the problem is getting worse and worse the more data we create. How it's done today. Data resides in a collection of one of 5 major databases today: Oracle, Microsoft, MariaDB, Postgres, and another open source database out there called MySQL. To manage those databases, you have to literally go through probably 30 different screens and at least 37 different clicks to do that. And it's a different language per different database you manage. So if you go from Oracle, you're talking one language, you go to Microsoft, you're talking another language, and now you have open source out there, and you have to make a lot of different decisions when you're actually managing those databases. What Moz is a single UI across all those databases. So what you can literally do with Moz, if I've got to do a backup with that database that's out there, or I got to run a particular process, I just pick that job, I pick the database, and I hit submit. No more 37 different screens, 37 different clicks, and a whole bunch of different clicks, and different decisions have to be made by a different database. How we're really doing it, it's a series of automation. We have started to implement artificial intelligence, which is recognizing what kind of decisions you need to make. We put all this into a Python database, so the processes are built with Postgres. We now consolidate everything within one screen, and we give you visualization across all your different databases in your organizations. Another statistic we found, most organizations will have 20, 30 Oracle databases, and they'll have probably 100 to 200 or more Microsoft databases. And their skill sets are usually don't go across most of those different databases they have. So we look at what Moz is being, and we're starting to get into the digital transformation side of IT. We found ourselves as really being the foundational piece. We figure out where the data is at, we figure out how you manage it, and we give you time back so that your IT professionals can start to help you move to cloud to start getting those efficiencies you're looking for. We've taken this to the DoD. We've done studies on savings. Gartner Group's the largest analyst company here in the United States. They've actually said we're the only single pane of glass out there. Oracle has been endorsed us. Here's our total addressable market. You can see the database infrastructure market is growing significantly, and even 28%, even at a $65 billion total addressable market. There's a lot of competitors out there that do software asset management, which is another component of what we do. Oracle has point solutions, Microsoft has point solutions, and you have monitoring tools out there, but nobody's doing the actual operations piece. Our business model is very simple. Between now and the end of next year, we're looking for 65 customers with ARR, and then we see in 23 we're picking up another 90 with a 7% ARR with that. We've just released Moz 4.5.
Ran out, but you're welcome to keep pitching. It just eats into your feedback time.
Okay. We've also signed up several partners to do resell. We've also done our outbound. So this is the team, been around a long time. Gene keeps an eye on the numbers. Bill's a chief architect. He's published, and this is what we're asking for. Questions?
Thanks, Doug. Curious, what does revenue look like today?
We have had the first new sale of version 4.5 that came out in July 1st, and that was a small deal with an existing customer, about 25,000. We had different pieces of it where we had about 300,000 of revenue on it so far. That was not in an ARR model. That was just point. We're just selling it in a point solution. We now have it in on AWS, and we're actually going to be launching it on Azure here in another 2 months.
Great. So the product is ready to deploy with customers?
Yes. Yeah. We look at ourselves as kind of a bridge to A. We're already seed. We look at this in enterprise. It's more than a minimal viable product because it's taken us several years. I've already put $7 million into it. So it's able to be, able to be run today in an enterprise environment. Up to 100 different servers is what we've tested it on.
Doug, thank you for your time. I'm wondering what onboarding looks like for customers from a operational and certainly a technical perspective, like what it takes to go live and start realizing value on the platform for someone who's looking to integrate and orchestrate their databases.
That's one of the great parts about it because it's agentless. All you have to do is have an AWS connection, and we can literally have it deployed, connect into your servers within about 2 to 3 hours, and then the contracts are what takes so long.
And you're saying it's database agnostic, like what you're doing is normalizing data from disparate databases, and I would imagine that's where the core technology kicks in.
What we're doing is we're normalizing the processes to manage the databases. Okay, not the data inside. We're not touching the data inside. Just all the different things it takes to manage and operate the databases is what we're normalizing. That's what we're doing there.
So there's no like read-write functionality within the databases themselves?
No, we didn't go that far. That gets you into a whole nother set of risk and issues when you get into that. So we leave that to the databases themselves.
And just one last thing, just from a semantics perspective. So Vendita is the parent company for this new feature, or is this an independent entity onto itself?
It's an independent entity on it to itself is what it is. The legacy business is something we had a deep relationship with IBM. They went to more of a cloud model. And then so we decided to take our revenues that we had and sold those off to another entity. And then now this is what we're doing today.
Cool. Thank you.
Hi, Doug. Have a quick question for you.
Sure.
I actually have 2 questions, so I'll go in order. I would like to know, what does your sales cycle look like? And my second question is, you mentioned that you would be spending some of the use of the fund toward development of AI. So I'd like to understand a bit better what do you intend to do, and what do you think the AI would be best used for in this case?
So I'll start off with the AI. We're using TensorFlow is the one we're putting in there. So we want to start detecting issues around when the data starts to get too high and you need to start to fire off your backups, for example. That's what it's going to start doing. It's going to start noticing and also start monitoring things and start to do reactionary things on the monitoring based on the different versions of the database you have. Okay, so that's how we're going to start to implement that. And your other question was?
I wanted to know what your sales cycle looked like in terms of yeah.
That's been very interesting. We thought it was going to be more of a B2B, and that's why I brought on several salespeople. But we've now found partners that are jumping all over this. So, for example, Veeam is a backup, or they do they do a storage company. We're a natural fit for them, and they're actually coming in and starting. They signed an initial agreement with us to run several pilots in a particular geographic area, where we're literally going in under their paperwork. And so that's they get a margin on the annual reoccurring revenue on the first year. So we're seeing the sales cycles. By the time we get engaged with the customer, it's probably about 6 weeks. And when I first went into this, I figured I'm more going to be 3 to 4 weeks. We try to stay into the size of companies that say 300 million up to 20 billion in that range. We want to stay out of that whole enterprise architecture, kind of the people that can say no, but nobody can say yes, guys. And that's why we went to the SaaS model, because that knocks about 80% of the challenges out and the security issues out of the conversation.
What's the difference between what you guys are building and what Domo's tried to build?
Domo's more on the BI side, and we've never seen this. We are truly on the operational side. So yeah, I've heard of them more on the actual grabbing the data, and they're trying to do different things with it to make decisions. We're trying to handle the operational pieces of managing those databases, you know, and it doesn't matter what the app is or where you send the data to after the fact.
What are the kind of KPIs that a customer could use to tell if, you know, what you're doing is a meaningful solution?
The amount of time that their DBAs are spending on it. One. The second thing is that a lot of times we'll take a typical 6-person shop, right? They're going to have different levels of skill within their organization. So they'll have somebody that's very talented with Oracle. Well, can we move that, a lot of those processes they're doing, to maybe a help desk person? So we try to spread that work out so that they don't have to spend their high $180,000 a year resources on doing simple routine tasks. Can we move that over to help desk? We got a particular client today that we're in a pilot phase with on Microsoft alone, running on Azure. And that's what they're looking to do with this, is actually say, I want help desk to be able to manage these certain databases and run these processes when they start to have you know, inefficiencies, or they start running into performance issues in those databases.
Time has run out. Did anyone have any just final advice for Doug?
The one thing that I would love to learn more about, and that might be able to, you know, to Blair's question around kind of value propositions and how you're pitching ROI, the automations, especially with respect to increasing efficiencies, if that's the first thing that comes to mind, I'd love to like learn more about what those are, how they, you know, how they relate to key business functionality, et cetera, as well as the integrations, like, and how those drive kind of, you know, fundamental aspects of the value proposition. So, I mean, you know, especially because you're an expert in this space and the people who are learning about it might not know as much as you do. It'd be helpful just to like learn about how it translates to like core business functionality and value.
Sure. Great. Yeah, I can reach out to you through LinkedIn. We can set up you know, another meeting. All right.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you for all of the judges for your great questions. We are going to bring Alex on next. Doug, thank you.
Thanks,
Good
Doug.
job.
Thank you.
Cheers. We're going to bring Alex on next, and then Taha, you will be after Alex. Thank you for being here. Please don't leave the room. Please stay. I'm so glad. It's like we got off to a little bit of a bumpy start, as folks said, tech issues, but now like we're flowing. We're making this happen now. This is fun. Alex, I'm going to bring you on now. I know that I am going to be sharing my screen for you.
Okay,
can we
great.
test your mic? Make sure we're good to go.
Can you hear me?
I can. So we are good. So I'm going to share my screen now, and if you could give me a confirmation that that you can see it, that you can see your presentation.
Okay, great. You coming? It's good.
It's all.
Yep.
Tell me when to go to the next slide, and I'll do that for you.
Okay, sounds good. You let me know when to begin.
I'll start your time. Actually, you know what? I should mute myself first. So I'll start the.
Okay, great. Okay, well, thank you all for the opportunity to hear our pitch, and we're excited to be here. I'm the Chief Business Development Officer and one of the largest investors in Alertgy. Alertgy is a pioneer in what's called non-invasive blood glucose monitoring solutions. So diabetes is a prevalent disease around the world, and is really the true epidemic. To date, the disease has been managed through systems like Roche AccuCheck, which is you'll find in your CVS pharmacy through a prescription that requires pricks and sticks, what we call, and strips, and being able to do that 6 times a day, pre and post meals. In the last few years, the industry has moved into more what's called continuous glucose monitoring solutions, which are patches. So there are 2 dominant companies right now. One is Abbott Libre, which is a patch that lasts about 14 days. It is still invasive, which means that there are little microfilaments that enter your skin, what's called the interstitial layer of your skin. In other words, in your fat layer, where it measures the glucose levels. The thing to remember about the other competitor, which is Dexcom, the company's worth $50 billion. It addresses about 5% of the diabetic market, which is only type 1 diabetics. The rest of them are type 2. So 95% of people are type 2, which means they have high blood sugar as opposed to low blood sugar. And then you have the largest segment of the worldwide population, which is about 2 billion people, who are what we call pre-diabetic or borderline diabetic, who will develop diabetes in the next few years. So you can go to the next slide, Andrew. So just to give you kind of the growing problem, it's especially in type 2. The problem is that people who are type 1, they have to monitor themselves. Otherwise, they go into a low blood sugar coma, which is very hard to come out of. So that market is well covered by the existing players. Like I said, the Abbotts, the Dexcoms, the Roches of the world. The 95% of the people are type 2 diabetics who refuse to prick themselves or refuse to wear expensive patches. And they're the ones that wind up 1/3 of all the hospital emergency room admissions are from type 2 diabetics who are non-compliant. They wind up having strokes, blood infections, amputations, and so forth and so on. So you can go to the next slide, please. So the human cost of diabetes is unbelievable. We talked to the guy from the Cleveland Clinic, the chief investigator. He goes, listen, this is going through the roof because of the people who are unchecked. We need to find a way to control these people from coming into the emergency room in the first place. But again, they're non-compliant. So go ahead. What we have developed is a single unit wearable device called Deep Gluco that contains both the display on top and the sensor on the bottom. So the sensor actually produces the readings, monitors the blood glucose in actually real blood up to 3 times a minute using radio frequency, and sends that data into the cloud, which then gets digested and sent back down to the display on top of the watch or through your app. Go ahead to the next one. So basically using RF technology, we're using the human body as the antenna itself. We're sending non-harmful radio frequency waves into the forearm and getting the real readings on the blood glucose molecule as it passes through the red blood cell membrane. And go to the next. So again, more on the stats. They're really staggering when you look at it, and especially when you think about the people who are yet to become diabetic. They're really trumping everything, and that's an extreme cost and burden on the healthcare system overall, from the hospitals to the patients to the healthcare practitioners to the insurance companies and the governments. Go ahead, the next one. We find ourselves at a perfect intersection of Internet of Things, AI, wearables, and digital health. If nothing else, Corona has taught us is that being able to monitor health digitally, telemedicine, and so forth has become the big thing. So everybody has had their doctor's visits done through a screen, Zoom, or whatever it is these days. So monitoring is becoming remote, and we feel that we're really at a unique sort of situation there. Go ahead, next one, please. Again, we're in a mature market. Like I said, there's the technologies that currently exist have been around for 30, 40 years, but the radio frequency, which is called dielectric spectroscopy, has only been applied by a couple of companies. We have a couple of competitors. One is called Movano. They just went public through a SPAC, raised about $77 million. Another one called No Labs, $14 million. Another one from Israel called Hagar, they just raised $14 million as well. Again, the market is staggering, especially when you talk about the type 2 market, which is what we're focusing on. Go ahead, next, please. So where are we right now? So we have developed a device over on the left. It is fully IoT enabled. We have adapted it for both Apple and Android. We have developed our own AI using TensorFlow, and we're able to do readings 3 times a minute currently. And those readings are comparable to all the other devices that are in the market. Go next, please.
I just wanted to warn you, you're already 2 minutes over. You can keep going, but you're 2 minutes over.
Yeah, this is a larger deck, but again, we can discuss this in greater detail, but I'd rather have folks ask questions because I think everybody in their family has somebody who's diabetic or pre-diabetic, and people are aware of this. So I'm happy to answer questions.
Do you want to mention your fundraise? Is there a fundraise?
Yeah, so what we're looking right now, we've raised $3.5 million between seed and bridge rounds. We've been around since 2017. And we're looking to raise $10 million right now to complete our preclinical and clinical trials. And we're actually, I think we're in a good place right now because we are about 2 years ahead of the competition that has raised tens of millions of dollars, but yet have to produce a working device, which we currently have.
Great. I'm sure folks want to jump in. Unfortunately, I won't be able to have my screen up and also have that. So hopefully, jump in. We've got 3 minutes to like give some quick downloads. If anyone has quick advice, and then of course questions are great too.
Hi, Alex. So I do have some feedbacks to share with you on the PowerPoint, but I believe we're doing this at the end of the panel. So in terms of questions, you mentioned that you'll be using AI, and again, we're AI investors, so I really want to understand. AI is really just a buzzword that a lot of people tend to throw away, to give us that we'll be using AI. I want to understand more deeply, what are you going to do with the AI? What is it going to be doing, to improve also the life of your patients? So I want to understand the tech workflow of that integration.
Yeah.
And
sure.
And the second question would be, how far do you think it's going to take you to go through FDA approval?
Great. So the AI itself really is the centerpiece of the technology. Obviously, you can't have AI without data. So we're trying to collect as much patient data and volunteer data as possible, because then we use that to train the AI. So what happens is that we calibrate a device once using a pinprick, and then from there on, basically the device learns, and the AI learns as it goes along, eventually learning the habits of that patient, because every person is different, the thickness of the skin, the morphology, there's so many different variable factors. So AI is really there to help us out, perfect the readings, and remove sort of the noise that comes along with these readings.
So that would be for prediction? Is that what you're mentioning?
Yes, correct. Right, exactly. So we're taking real-time readings about 3 times a minute, and that data is being sent to the cloud, being processed. And then again, the system, like Alexa, right? It learns about you and your habits at home. Same thing with this. It learns and produces better data, which in turns helps your healthcare practitioner, insurance company. Again, we are talking about preventative medicine mostly, because that's where the burden for the healthcare system is. How do we get ahead of the disease before it gets us? So AI is extremely important to us. We've developed our own algorithm. And as far as the FDA approval goes, we are going for de novo, which means we do not have a predicate in the market right now. So we have to do it by ourselves. But we feel that, I would say, once we have already sent a protocol to the FDA through the University of Florida Shands Hospital. We have a protocol and a budget, and that's been sent into the FDA to get their approval right now.
Okay, and you said the data is going to the cloud, it's not staying on the edge, is that correct?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and one last question, I'm sorry. What is the relationship between you and the company? Because you said you were one of the largest investors, but you're also—
I'm one of the investors. I'm also one of the, I'm the chief business development person. My friend Mark Crippen is the one that started the company when his wife almost went into a low blood sugar coma back in 2016. He knew what was going on, but he couldn't really help her. She was becoming a borderline diabetic at that time. So he's the one that actually started the company. So he's one of my longest and dearest friends, I would say. Gotcha. About 25 years running.
Who's the CTO and the CEO then?
He's the CEO.
Okay.
The CTO, we have a CMO, CTO, and again, I didn't get into the deck, but we have people who are, 40 plus years in different industries, from mechanical engineers to former Lockheed engineers. Mark he was the head of research for Stanford Research Institute. He worked—
Sorry to cut off, Alex. We've already run out of time. I want to make sure a couple of judges can say things.
Yeah.
Just
sure.
Try to answer briefly. I'll give a minute or two right now, but just try to give really brief answers. I just want to— I can see people like kind of itching to say something, so I just want to give a little bit of opportunity for that.
Go for it. Sorry.
Real quick, who are you selling this to? Who's the
We
buyer?
are looking to license this data to a large player like Roche, Diabetes Care, Abbott, Medtronic, Dexcom. We've already had talks with all of them. Roche is very interested in doing some type of a M&A event once we have enough data to de-risk the technology, which will be about 80 patients, which is what we're trying to do right now, raise money for.
So it's a data play and not a device play?
Exactly right. Data is really the king in this whole thing, and that's why AI is important. The device is just a vehicle really to get there. We don't want to be an OEM, in other words.
Cool. That's all I got.
No, nobody else wanted to say anything. We're good. I can just offer one piece of my advice, Alex. I would just say try to answer a little briefly, just so you have time to get to all the questions. Just try to time things. In a 4-minute pitch, maybe have a 4-minute pitch deck, like make a shorter pitch deck version. Just because I think it would have been great to hear, a little bit about your fundraise in more detail. That's just my advice, but it was still a good job, and I'm so glad that we were able to get you on here despite the tech issues this morning. So
no, I appreciate it.
You.
I was just we spent the day struggling with it, but it's fine. It's all good. But like I said, we can share our deck. We have a video of the demonstration, live demonstration of the device right now on patients. So if anybody's interested in looking at that, we also have a peer-reviewed clinical trial study that was published, if anybody's interested in looking at that. So
thank you, Alex.
Happy to share.
Sure, Marina.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just like it really bothers me when we talk about diabetes, because it's really annoying, like you said, for kids and everything, to bring in fingers and all that.
Yeah.
But when you're approaching investors, the way that you describe the differences between diabetes type 1 and type 2, these are not the fundamental differences. And I think that you should really explain, what is happening. Most people would know, because you will be talking to investors that obviously have a background into healthcare deals, or or medical in general. But I think it's important that you explain it's not just about high end and low sugar. It's not what's happening.
Right.
So
absolutely,
I mean, it's true, but that's not the reason. So I think it's very important that you corner a very short message, a very short narrative, like Andrew said, to have the message flow very clearly and concisely. So that was just my advice. And then other than that, wish you good luck with the fundraising.
Thank you. We
Marina.
appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Cheers, Alex.
Thank you, Andrew.
Cheers. I'm going to bring Taha on stage, and thank you for the good and clear advice, everybody. I know that they all appreciate it. Taha, I'm bringing you on. I think we have you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you. Hi,
great.
guys.
I can see you. I can hear you. Go ahead and do a screen share. Let's make sure that's all working right.
Can you
I can, but it looks like you just closed it. Okay, now it's back open. If you press slideshow, can you hear us?
Yeah.
If you press, there you go. You are full screen. Can we test your audio real quick? I just want to make sure we're not freezing up here.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you just fine.
Perfect.
Are you ready to roll?
Yes, I'm ready to roll. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, your time starts now.
So firstly, thank you for inviting us to MeetFounders. It's a big opportunity for us. Just for the understanding of the wider audience, Zaraye in the native language Urdu means sourcing, or sources specifically. And our idea is an input material sourcing platform for businesses. So just to explain the problem on hand, a large number of SMEs in our country face an information asymmetry because businesses have limited access to input material manufacturers, because geographically the suppliers are based out of the north of the country, whereas the buyers are based out of the country. So they have to rely on multiple intermediaries in between that create a market buyer and the seller. Now the challenges that come out of it is that there's an access to a limited amount of players or intermediaries, therefore resulting in the businesses not knowing whether they're getting the best price or the quality from the market. And these which create a cost inefficiency in the market. So the larger industries in our country face this issue because there's a middleman which creates trade specifically for the textile, plastic, industrial chemicals industry. Now, the solution that we want to come up with is to create a platform where these buyers and suppliers can connect with each other. So essentially, a reverse bidding platform where the buyer can go onto the app and put their query there, and then the supplier can provide a quote, and there are multiple suppliers on board which are providing a quote. Inherently, they'll get the best particular quality or price from the platform itself, and it will allow them to access a much wider audience via that platform. Now our go-to-market strategy is that out of the $263 billion Pakistani market, the largest contributor is the industrial sector, which is the $50.5 billion market, and the largest contributor to this sector is the textile sector at 8.5%. Now, in the textile sector, the raw material input, which is the largest contributor, is the yarn market at $8 billion, which has consistently been growing in the past 5 years, roughly about 80%. Now, when we look at the unit economics of the yarn sector, the middleman has roughly about a 1% margin, which is a 0.5% from either parties. Now, this can be increased when they're giving a credit of about 60 days, which ranges from about 2.5% to 3% of cost of credit. Now, in different parts of the year, due to the seasonality which kicks in, and when the purchaser is buying at different parts of the year, there is a price differential that the middleman can keep by forward purchasing the product at one particular part of the year and then selling it a little later on. But once we have cracked the trading market, we can go into other potential revenue streams, such as credit financing, because as I said earlier, there's a cost of credit that is there. Going into the logistics and warehousing plays also pretty big, considering the fact that that's always going to be an important part of this industry. And then for buyers who are importing this product from outside the country, there's a clearing and forwarding play as well. When we look at comparable platforms in the region, the one which is the most relevant to us is Yarn Bazaar from our next door neighbors in India. And they have an annualized revenue of roughly about $45 million. But there are other, and Yarn Bazaar is a reverse bidding platform. But when we look at other comparable platforms of you look at Connect, you look at EC21, they have a subscription model as well, which is giving a lot of traction. Now, when we look at the competitive landscape, there are two particular players that are there, Hello Textile and Sanatkar, but these are very nascent stage players because they currently lack the experience of scaling tech platforms, and that gives us a big enough opportunity to crack over here. But predominantly, Hello Textile is a subscription-based messaging platform which connects buyers and sellers, whereas Sanatkar has just the top 25 sellers, which is and acts as a listing platform where buyers can just seek information from. When you look at the customer acquisition plan, largely our focus would be on creating a push marketing campaign to build business brand awareness about our business, where we would focus, because in our part of the world, human-to-human interaction really helps, and cold channel use, whereas trade shows can also the pull marketing from the lead generation point of view. And discount campaigns can be something that would be very important for us. We have a $500,000 safe investment plan, which would be largely contributing towards our tech development, our marketing, customer acquisition costs, and the rest would be admin and operating expenses. Now, in terms of our team, there's myself, Taha, who I've been a part of the tech space for about 5 years now, and I've been a part of $2 billion companies, similar to my co-founder, Ehsan Ali Khan. I've been working with him for the past 4 years at these two companies. Myself have been part of mainly commercial functions, and I've launched the food business for Kareem, and I was the head for the B2B task category for Swivel, which is for the corporate commute business, whereas Ehsan has been part of the operations and product team and in his last for Swivel in Pakistan, whereas Hashir is a restaurateur by profession, but his family businesses of the textile sector where for the past 3 decades, his family has been successfully doing textile business in the country, and he brings a treasure chest of experience from the conventional business landscape. So this is about this. This is about us. Thank you.
Judges, we have about 4 minutes of feedback left. Go ahead and jump straight in.
Thank you, Taha. I saw on the slide how you plan to allocate the funds in terms of percentages, but what do you hope to achieve for the company with this round of financing?
So this would take us to roughly about roughly $250,000 to $300,000 of top line revenue in the next 4 months. So this solves for 4 months of our runway, but we would be continuing our fundraising rounds for the next foreseeable 6 to 8 months.
And is your product? What's your product?
Can you please come again?
Sorry. What stage is your product? Are you MVP? Are you deployed? Are you in construction?
So we're in the process of creating our MVP. Currently, we are doing offline business, and we have potentially about $90,000 of business in our pipeline. But funds that we will raise would largely go towards hiring a CTO and a tech team, and then creating a scalable product.
Yeah, I'll just get some feedback real quick. So because this is a very complicated system, I think it would be really nice to hear what's being built and what's currently missing or not working. I mean, if that one company bootstrapped to 45 million, clearly there's a need for this something. But what's broken with that one if they were able to not raise any money whatsoever? I think that when at least for me, I've seen a couple of these things. I like to know they're so complicated. And you obviously in 4 minutes can't tell us what's really going on. So I think, I don't know how you do it, and I haven't seen anyone do it good yet. So it would be nice to kind of see what's out there, what they're missing, and then what you guys are filling in or cleaning up in these types of products.
Yeah, Tim, I would add
to that. So Tim, money is a function of scale. What happened is that they've reached 45 million of annualized revenue in about 3 given the fact that they were bootstrapped. Now, if we're able to raise, we'll be able to do that in a far more faster and more efficient way. And that will allow us to build technology, which would be the best tech stack in the market, which would create our competitive edge in the market. So the focus is to grow and grow fast. So just to give you context, B2B businesses in Pakistan have been raising significantly large amount of funds. The last B2B business, it was in the retail landscape, has raised about $85 million in a Series B. So for us, the focus is to raise funds, acquire customers fast, build a market-leading tech, and scale as fast as possible.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I mean, but for me, listening, I don't know what's wrong with the ecosystem if a company's built a bootstrap company to 45 million. Like, I wish you just like, hey, look, here's what these guys are doing. It's missing these 5 pieces, so we're adding them or cleaning them up.
Yeah, I would fully agree with that. I think the
good suggestions. What we can do is once we're into any further discussion, we can have a closer look at what Yandar is doing. We've had multiple conversations with their CEO, Pratik. He's coming on as an advisor for us as well. And then the learnings that we get from him, we can just try to make sure that we incorporate that in our plans and then make it a much more smoother process for us.
Hey, Taha, can you hear me?
Fine, Cole. Taha, you can't hear Cole?
I can't.
Can you hear me? Okay. Well, we'll make sure to play this back for you. But Cole, go. I'm sure we're happy to. It's still being recorded, so we'll send it over to Taha.
Yeah, sounds good. And Taha,
give us a second, Taha. Cole's going to speak, and you won't be able to hear it.
Yeah. Can you hear me now, Taha, by chance, just to check? Seems like no. Okay. I was just going to agree with Tim. Basically, when you're underwriting a roadmap, like with their MVP yet to be built, I just really want to understand, like, what do you plan to bring to the table from a core technology innovation standpoint? Because to your point, Tim, I'm not entirely sure what is missing from, I guess I can kind of infer from slide 6, the competitive landscape for Hello Textile.
I can't hear anyone.
I'm going to play it back. I'm going to play it back for you. But the idea was to get his recording while he was speaking. Cole, what was the last thought?
Just want to understand the core technology that they bring to the table when you're underwriting the map, because right now nothing's built and it sounds like they don't have a tech team. So.
Got it. Any final piece of advice for Taha?
I would have loved to know who's the co-presenter with Taha.
You want to? Please come again.
I said I would have loved to know who's your co-presenter today.
You didn't introduce. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So we were short on time, so we just thought to stick on the business model. So I'm Harshit Amidani. I'm the co-founder with Taha, and SN is not present here. He's traveling up north. So it's 3 of us who are co-founding this startup, and we've been working on this since last 4 months. And so right now we are in this phase of basically raising capital for our business.
Good advice, though, Marina. I think that was a slight an intro for your co-presenter next time. But thank you for coming on stage. I'll make sure to play back Cole's advice for you. You'll get the recording, so you'll be able to hear that on the video. I'm not sure why you're not hearing it on the screen, considering you're here in the room with us. But I can hear you, Cole, and we still care about you. So thank you for the advice. Thank you, Taha, and thank you both for jumping on stage. This is the cheers. This is the moment of truth. Since we had some tech issues, I know I don't want you to judge anybody based on whether they came to the room on time. But if you'd like, you can. If you don't want to post your favorite startup in the chat, you can send it directly to me by clicking my name. If you just click my name and then click view full profile, you should be able to send me a message. Do you guys want to type in the chat your favorite pitch of the evening, or send it to me directly? And I think we already did. While you're doing that, we already did your fund intros. The only thing we didn't do tonight is to just find out if someone wanted to get in contact with you. What's the best way? Is it LinkedIn? Is there some other super secret way? Let us know in case folks want to get in touch after your lovely advice this evening. Who wants to go first? Or are you guys thinking whoever has typed their vote so already should jump in?
I'm happy to go first. Oh.
So you can vote just by typing it in the chat if you want, but if you want it to be secret, you can vote by clicking my name in the chat, view profile, and sending me a direct message. If you want it to be a secret vote, that's okay too. And after you've done that, maybe I'll give folks a second to do that, and then you can tell us how to reach out. Looks like we have folks coming through. I've got Tim's, I've got Blair's, I've got Marina's. The only one I don't have is Cole. Cole's still deciding.
Folks can always reach out to me on LinkedIn. Just shoot me a connection, quick message about what you're building. Happy to take a look at those.
Yeah, for us at Heights, we absolutely love reaching out on LinkedIn. It's great. Send us a quick message to mention why are you reaching out. We do get about 100 requests a week, and we usually skim through the ones that we understand why the connection is here. And please have a look at the website first and make sure that your startup is within our scope. And we wish you all good luck, and hope to see you soon, either on the MeetFounders platform or anytime on Clubhouse or somewhere else, maybe in person.
Marina, that's wonderful advice. Please look at Frontier Venture Capital website. Make sure you're a good fit for us before reaching out too.
This is great advice. I hear this advice all the time. Everyone who's in the room, and somehow we went up to 20. But yeah, for those in the room, I hear that advice all the time from VCs. Please check if they're a fit before sending your deck. Tim and Cole, what's the best way to reach out to you guys?
For me, I would say LinkedIn works. Just Cole Mora, as you can see on the screen. And then if you want to just email me directly, cole@struckcapital.com. That's STRUCK capital.com is also a great way to reach out.
Yeah, same. LinkedIn's the easiest way. Tim L. Cooley, if you're going to put it at the end. And then if you're interested in our accelerator, it's tailwindaccelerator.com. And I put it in the chat. So
accelerators are some of my favorite.
We're pretty generalized, so we're fairly agnostic. So we'll take any. Don't even read, just apply.
And Tim comes highly recommended. He is apparently at lots of events. So for gracing us with your presence here, great to meet you, Blair, and of course Marina and Cole. Always good to have you two back. Thanks for giving your time. I know everyone appreciates it, and giving great advice sometimes feels repetitive, but these folks who are growing companies, it might change their whole trajectory. So thank you for giving your time tonight. We're going to have, for everyone in the audience, the venture capital panels will be starting in about 13-14 minutes. The way to get to those is the same way you got to this room, except you'll be going to a different room. So click sessions and then click the venture capital panel at the correct starting time. I really appreciate everyone who came out tonight. Thank you for joining. It's much more fun when we get to have an audience. So thank you for being in the audience. And I will see you at the venture capital panels in just about 12 minutes. Cheers, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks,
have a great night.
Nice to meet you guys.